Today we're going to be exploring ancient Athens using Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and so we'll be visiting some of the most famous Athenian landmarks, and I'll be going over their histories and stories so we can get to know ancient Athens a little bit better while gaming. It's only right that we start at the Acropolis, which is probably the most famous and iconic one of the Athenian landmarks. When people go on holiday to Greece, this is usually what they're going to go visit. So this was actually the Athenian spiritual center, which means it housed several of the temples that Athenians would go to worship their different gods and goddesses. While we're here getting to our next place, a fun fact about the Acropolis is that it was actually rebuilt by Pericles after the Peloponnesian Wars. One of the most famous temples in the Acropolis is the Parthenon, which is dedicated to Athena Parthenos, which means Athena the Virgin. While Athena was a goddess who was celebrated for many different characteristics, this temple specifically focuses on her independence, purity, and wisdom, which were all of the characteristics associated with Athens. So the Parthenon was home to this massive gold and ivory statue of Athena, which was crafted by Phidias. So we can see up close and personal the different characteristics of Athena. She is the goddess of war, so she has her shield and spear. Can I climb up it? Oh, I can. So what did worship for the gods actually look like? Well, it involved animal sacrifices, as we can so pleasantly see there, wine offering, and oftentimes social feasting. And apparently this is a floating piece of meat. Just at the base of the Acropolis, we have the Theatre of Dionysus. I mean, this is pretty special because Athenians invented tragedy, comedy, satire, biography, history, and dialogue. So naturally, putting on plays was a big part of Athenian society and culture. I'm just joining the play here. Oh, sorry. I actually feel kind of bad. I'm trying to figure out what's going on in this play. Me on a Tuesday night. Every April, Athenians put on the Dionysia festival. This is where playwrights would compete and put on plays to honor the god Dionysus, who is the god of wine and theatre. So at the Dionysia festival, if your play did well, you would actually get prizes, kind of similar to the Oscars, though instead of a little gold statue, you would get an ivy wreath crown, street cred, and bragging rights. One of the most famous playwrights was Aristophanes, and he got famous because in his plays, he pretty much roasted philosophers, politicians, and anything and everything in between. How the plays actually worked is that oftentimes one actor would play many roles using various masks and costumes, and plays would often have a chorus. A chorus was a group of actors who were outside the main action of the play, and they would break up the play, providing commentary on what was going on or pointing out important moral messages from the play. So we're now at Pnyx Hill, which can be considered the birthplace of democracy. However, the Athenians had a direct democracy. There were no representatives and citizens voted for themselves. On ecclesia, which are assembly days, male citizens would climb the Pnyx to go and vote. They would listen to proposals, usually about foreign policy or war, debate those issues, and then vote by show of hands what they wanted to do about that issue. Now imagine hiking up this hill in the middle of summer in Greece with that humidity to go and listen to some fools talk about foreign policy and vote on it. No thank you, I will take my rights as a female and not vote or attend this, ever. This is me if I had to go up and vote. I'd be like, no thanks, I'm just gonna chill here. Oh. Ooh. Help. But let's talk a little bit about how they made this process of direct democracy work in Athens. So the Athenians had something called the Council of 500, which was called the Bull in Greek. Meetings on Pnyx Hill happened 40 times a year. The councilmen would meet more often to basically draft up an agenda for each of these Pnyx Hill meetings so that things would be kept in order and relevant topics would be discussed. A nice little bonus for the councilmen is that they were paid a few obols a day, which was the Athenian currency, and actually given free communal dinners. This was because during their time in the council, they wouldn't really have that much time to continue with their ordinary day jobs, and this was a position that was meant to be available for people of all social classes in Athens. So they were given these obols and free dinners as compensation for their time serving on the council. Which, you know, hello, free dinner, sign me up. There are, of course, some pros and cons to the Athenian direct democracy. The pro is that the people who were voting were people who would would actually be affected by the policies and projects passed. But of course, the huge con is only citizens could vote, and by citizens that means no slaves, no women, and no foreigners. If both your parents weren't Athenian born, then you couldn't vote, which means only about 10 to 20% of the Athenian population actually had those political rights. You can't vote, you can't vote, you can't vote. But where can people go to have chats if they're not citizens of Athens? That is in the Agora, which is the marketplace, and this is the real center of activity. Oh, like these ladies chatting here. Hey girls, just joining. No, I literally heard that too. Like, it's so crazy everything that's happening over in Sparta. Has anyone seen Alcibiades recently? Because like, I sent him a letter the other day and he didn't respond, and I'm just like kind of upset. No, you get it. No, you've also been involved with Alcibiades. Of course you have. One of the Agora's frequents was Socrates. So he very famously would come to the marketplace to chat to people and ask them philosophical questions and start lines of philosophical inquiry with random folk in the marketplace. So no wonder he wasn't very popular and Aristophanes made fun of him in his play, because that's strange. I was just shopping and someone came up and started asking me what the soul is. Would I interact? I don't know. I think I would sort of politely turn the other way. Anyway, Socrates believed it was okay for him to do this because he called himself a gadfly who was stinging the rest of the Athenian people out of this sort of dazed slumber where they weren't thinking for themselves. And so by asking people questions, he was stinging them into action. In the Agora, specifically the Stoas were hubs for commerce and conversation. The Stoas were covered walkways, so this kind of makes sense. Like I was saying earlier, Greece is hot, and in the summer, I would not want to just stand in that sweltering heat with no air conditioning, mind you, talking. So no wonder the Stoas were popular. At least you get some shade. And lots of conversations happened under the Stoa, and one very important one was Zeno, who would go there to teach his students philosophy under the painted Stoa of Agora, and his students became known as the Stoics. I've realized I've officially spent all day playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is absolutely fine by me, but I should probably call it quits here and end the video. There's so much to see in Assassin's Creed Odyssey in Athens and the rest of ancient Greece. It's so packed with history and references, so it's actually a great educational tool. If anyone is interested in seeing a part 2 to this, let me know, because it was so fun to do. I wanted to do a video that was more fun and silly this week as it's my birthday this week, so I thought that would be a little bit entertaining. Thanks for watching.